All right, guys, so today in front of me from the Neeley family distillery, we have Hidden Barn Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey Batch number 1. So Jackie Zykan, former specialist over at Old Forester, decided she was going to up and leave the company and start out on her own venture. Wound up linking up with the Neeley family distillery and the 5280 Colorado Whiskey Society, collaborated together, and she is the blender for this Hidden Barn Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. Jackie did a lot of amazing things at Old Forester. I know everyone in the whiskey community knows that. So I'm sure we're all hoping that she continues on, that legacy here at the Neeley family distillery and blending these batches of Hidden Barn. Excited to see what this one is all about, guys. So without further ado, let's go. All right, so this Hidden Barn batch number 1 is non-age stated, but is rumored to be 4 to 5 years old. Mash bill on this one is 70% corn, 20% rye, 10% malted barley. Comes in at 106 proof. Let's go ahead and get into the nose, guys. So first thing I did is very interesting. So there are a lot of youthful notes. That grain does appear for sure. You do get some of that sweet corn there on the nose. But on the flip side of that, there is a lot of sweetness to this. There is a beautiful butterscotch note that is all around the glass on this one. When I poured it in here and swirled it around, I couldn't help but notice the viscosity all over the glass on this one. I'm really hoping the palate, that kind of reflects on the palate. But again, a lot of youthful notes there for sure. Some of that corn, that graininess, but a beautiful sweet butterscotch note there further into the glass. There's definitely some mild fruit going on there, like almost like an overripe peach or like an apricot. Some mild fruitiness there, a little bit further away from the glass. Again, further into the glass, you get that really sweet butterscotch note, and then some of that grain that you start to pick up as well. I don't really necessarily pick up the rye or the malted barley, but I do get some of that youthful corn, that corn influence. With it being 70%, in 4 to 5 years, I guess you will tend to get some of that. Surprisingly, though, I didn't expect to pick up that much grain on the nose, but you definitely get the corn influences there. Yeah, again, a lot of mild fruit. It's almost like an overripe peach, or like an apricot a little bit, maybe a blend of both. Nice kind of some undertones of vanilla and caramel in there, but that butterscotch note is. It's great. It's like a Werther's almost, or those little yellowish butterscotch candies. Nice nose, guys. Get the palate. Cheers. So I have some mixed feelings about that. So yeah, you do get some of the grainy flavor there. You do get some of the corn. The corn is present on the front of the palate. Middle of the palate, though, a nice kind of combination there. Like the sweetness of the vanilla and the caramel kind of start to appear there. But then into the finish, that butterscotch note that I was getting kind of starts to come about there on the back of the palate and into the finish. It's not a very long finish. It's fairly short. It's very intriguing though, because you kind of wonder what kind of flavor profile they're looking for or shooting for, and what that may be in another couple years. Again, if this is rumored to be 4 to 5 years old, there is a little bit of age there. I'm not liking a lot of that corn influence though that I'm getting. It is very sweet on the palate, though. Very, very sweet. Finish, I wish it was just a little bit longer, because it's definitely on the short side. Let's get into the second sip. So that sip changed a little bit. Some different flavors started to come about there. Those little sugared peach rings, the little candies. Kind of get that there on the front and the middle of the palate. But then, the back of the palate started to pick up, slightly, minty. like a very, very slight hint of mint there on the back of the palate, like some black tea that's kind of mingling in there as well. I mean, that second sip there, tend to go on for a little bit longer, but it is still a short finish. Again, that corn influence is still kind of there. There's not that viscosity that I was hoping was going to be there. It's next to no viscosity at all, really. Again, so flavor profile is very different. It is very sweet, and then like towards the back, you do kind of get some interesting earthy notes there. Again, like a slight hint of mint, a little bit like a black tea there on the finish, with some of that butterscotch. That butterscotch kind of is still there on the back of the palate into the finish. I really like that about it. Let's get into the last sip, guys. Cheers. So on that sip, some of that orchard fruit that I got on the nose starts to appear there on the front of the palate. Again, some vanilla, some caramel, like sweetness there. Not getting a ton of that though, with that corn sweetness still there on the front of the palate. Middle of the palate, again, like that peach, like kind of sugared candy ring there. That influence is there as well. Don't get a lot of rye spice on it. With 20% rye, it's not crazy high, but I was expecting a little bit more rye spice there on the palate. And again, like into the finish, that butterscotch is still there, but then that black tea and like a very slight hint of mint there on the back of the palate into the finish. It is a short finish, unfortunately, but you know, again, I'm very interested to see, you know, what this is going to look like in the future, what batch 2 or 3, you know, may look like, as far as like a flavor profile. If it is, again, you know, it's rumored to be 4 to 5 years old, so still fairly young, but you know, get it to the 7-8 year mark. I think you'll lose that corn influence. I would really love to see that butterscotch still kind of stick within there. I'm very intrigued to see like what their flavor profile is, like what they have in mind, like where they want to go with it. Because it's kind of confusing me a little bit. It's like we want to go down this kind of very sweet, you know, sweet road, and then on the other hand, we want to kind of go down this. There's like this earthiness, you know, to it. So it's kind of pulling in both directions. It's a very interesting flavor profile. The butterscotch on the nose and the palate, I really enjoy. Again, didn't necessarily enjoy that corn influence that I got there on the palate. But pretty decent stuff here, guys, from Hidden Barn. So I want to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. And guys, again, it's a decent pour. As far as a whiskey score, you know, I'm going to grade it for what it is now. I'm not going to grade it for what it could be, what it could potentially be, because I'm drinking this now. As far as a whiskey score, I'm going to give it a 5.6. Falls in the decent category. That's what it is. You know, at this point, I wouldn't go out and try this at a bar. Had tried it now. I wouldn't go out and try this at a bar. It's just not, the flavor profile is not where I was hoping it would be at 4 to 5 years old. You know, there's other whiskeys out there aged that long, and you don't get that kind of corn influence that you do on this one. Now, however, the really nice butterscotch notes that are on here, those orchard fruits and the earthy notes that were kind of on the back, the tea, the mint, you know, they're very interesting notes, and I'm excited to see what this thing could do with another year or two under its belt. You know, that corn influence goes away, and then some of those other notes become more dominant. That's what I'm hoping for. But again, guys, this does fall under the decent category. 5.6 is my official score, guys. So if you're looking for more reviews like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, bell notification to be alerted of any upcoming reviews or live streams. You can also find me on Instagram at Dusty Dan's Whiskey Reviews. And until next time, guys, stay dusty.